Hi there, and welcome back to the Smart English Coach podcast. With me today is Craig Wealand from english-podcast.com. Now, you might remember Craig from the Advanced English Summit back in April, and I'm delighted to say that Craig will be at the English Fluency Summit as well. Welcome back, Craig. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you for inviting me back to talk about the next summit, Claire. We had so much fun on the last summit in April that I'm really, really happy you asked me back to appear again in September this year. Really
Oh,
looking
well,
forward to
I
it.
I am absolutely delighted as well. Thank you very much for agreeing to take part. So, we all know that fluency is such an important part of learning English. And I know that you've got lots of tips to share about this, haven't you, Craig?
I have. I've got at least 12. It's 12 at the moment. We're recording this in July 2024, a couple of months before the summit. Maybe I'll have a couple more by September, but I've got 12 tips to talk about. So I thought today we could look at maybe 4 or 5 of them just to give people an idea, a taste of what to expect in September.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Craig. So perhaps then you can share one at least of your tips. What would you think is the most important thing for people to remember to improve their fluency?
Well, I think let's look at it first of all in order of cost, because not everybody watching has the same budget, the same amount of money to spend. Now, if money is of no object, is that you have as much money as you need and you don't want to worry about money at all, you don't need to worry about money. Obviously, travel is probably the most effective and quickest way to fluency. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but going to another country, immersing yourself in the language in the UK, in Canada, in America, in Australia, where the language is actually spoken on a daily basis, that will probably be the most effective. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the sort of immersion programs that you get, even if it's for 1 or 2 weeks, are really helpful. And it's not so much that you're going to learn lots and lots of English, I think, but the fact, as you said, of hearing it spoken around you. And, even if you don't go to a language course, being able to listen to English on the radio, to watch it on television, to hear it in shops and pubs or wherever it is that you go. I think that's a really, really useful part of learning English. But as you said, it depends on your budget.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned a week or two. I mean, if you do have the means, the budget, the money to go for longer, the longer you go for, obviously, the better your fluency will improve. However, for people that don't have that kind of money available, a second option, which is a little bit more inexpensive, not so expensive, is to find an area, if possible, where you live in your country where a lot of English is spoken. And to give a personal example, I live here in Spain and in Valencia. And if you go down the coast here, you find little places, little pockets of English speakers. So for somebody living, for example, in Valencia or close to this area, if you jump in your car and you go down to one of these expat areas for a few days, you'll find English bars, English restaurants, places where only English is spoken, places in supermarkets where the announcements are in English. And it's just a matter of going outside your comfort zone, walking into a bar where English people tend to go for a drink, and just starting a conversation. So if you have that, if you have, and are you thinking of Italy? Are you thinking of similar areas in Italy where you could do that?
There are definitely areas in Italy where you can go that and just perhaps we'll hear a lot of English spoken. And I like your idea of trying to start a conversation. I think because most people are very open, aren't they, to
Yes.
speaking to new people and to even if you are the person from that country, you could give like really nice advice where they might want to go and try the best food or watch the most beautiful sunsets. I think people are always open to getting local advice. And it might not just be, I think, the supermarkets or the bars, but even if you're I'm not so much speaking about Spain now, but if you're on public transport, you'll hear kind of like snippets of English, short sentences, and that can really kind of tune you in to everyday English and perhaps the English you don't hear in textbooks.
Exactly. Yeah. And another example, you could walk into a bar where there might be some sports on the television. It might be a cycle race. It might be a football match. Just saying to somebody next to you who you don't know who's winning, who's playing, is this an important match? And then you just start up a conversation in your country, but in an area where a lot of English is spoken, where there is a quite a large community of English speakers.
Yeah, that's a fantastic thing actually to talk about sports, because a lot of people are really keen on sports. Really nice idea about traveling to a place in your country then where you can hear lots of English spoken. Do you have another tip for us, Craig?
I do. Now, let's going down from cost. Maybe you can't afford to go abroad, as we said initially. You could take a course, a language course in the country where you are at a local school or online. If there doesn't happen to be a school in your area, an academy, then you could also go online and take a course that way. I know you've got a fluency club and you have live group lessons over at your website. I also do the same. So if you can't have a local, in-person, face-to-face course with real people, then you can go online with real people, but through the internet, and do a conversation course or something similar. You've got flexibility there. You've got cost, which is obviously lower than flying somewhere. A convenience, because usually you can find a time and a day that suits you, that's convenient for you. And then there's the social factor where you're meeting other people who are learning the language. You've got a peer group. You've got other students in the similar situation. And just make sure you do a level test before you join any course so that you are placed in the language school at the correct level.
This is fantastic advice. I mean, I was actually going to ask you, I know it's not completely relevant to what we're talking about today, but if you could give your tips, perhaps, how to choose the right course for you. Because, of course, there are so many courses out there, so many English teachers. How do you know that the course that you're going to invest your money in is going to be a course that helps you with your fluency? So I know you and I both have, as you're saying, we have both fluency programs, and you gave lovely advice also about, joining communities. So you're speaking with other students, which I think is so, so important. But would you have a very quick tip, Craig, for how you can make sure you're doing the right course?
Yeah, a couple of things to say about that. First of all, choose the course with the goal in mind. So why are you studying in the first place? Are you studying to pass an exam? You need a specific exam-based course for your level and for that exam. Are you studying business English? You need a business English course. Make sure you're choosing the correct course for your final aim. If you're just studying general English, if you just want to learn English for travel or just improve your fluency in general, then you need a general English course. And when you go to an academy, the academy that I worked for years, the British Council, you didn't really know what teacher you were going to get. All of the teachers were, of course, good. I have to say that. They were. They're all very good.
It's
However,
the British Council as
at the
well.
British Council. But you don't really know when you walk in the door of an academy, a local academy, you don't always know what teacher you're going to be getting. Is the chemistry going to be there? The other people in the class, etc. But now you can see us, like you kind of know what kind of people Claire and I are. So very often if you decide to take an online course, you've got a pretty good idea of the teacher you're going to have before you commit and you pay your money. And also, of course, reach out and ask questions. If you reach out to Claire and I, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, any doubts, and make sure that you've got all the information you need before you actually join the course.
Yeah, lovely tips.
Would you add anything to that?
Well, off the top of my head, no, but I would just kind of reiterate your point about knowing why it is you want an English course, whether or not, as you said, it's for an exam, for business English, for general English, because when you decide what you want to get out of it, I think you're going to be more successful. So that's a really, really lovely tip. Thank you. So I love the way that you're organizing these ideas, Craig, in terms of the most expensive downwards. So as a quick recap, then we've had travel to an English speaking country, travel to an English speaking town or region in your country where you know English is going to be spoken, invest in a course with real people. We are real, no AI here. Can I be cheeky and ask you for another tip for improving your fluency?
Well, I can give you 3 free tips. Everybody
Wow,
likes free. We've
we love
spoken
free.
about some paid options, but I've got a couple of tips for improving your fluency without paying anything. The first one's a little bit strange. Speak to yourself. Speak to yourself when you're in your car driving. Speak to yourself when you're walking along the street and you're taking the dog for a walk. Describe what you see around you, and give your opinion on what you're looking at. Talk to your pet if you've got a cat or a dog. Talk to your grandmother. It's not the same thing thinking the words in English in your head than it is actually producing it from your mouth. And I discovered that preparing for presentations years ago, because I used to think what I was going to say, but it's a lot more effective when you actually say it. And you'd self-correct. If you mispronounce a word, then you try it again. Does it sound better? If you're in a bit of a mess with the grammar, then you could maybe go and check it, study it, and then express it a bit better. The same with vocabulary, collocation. So speaking and using the English you've been studying is actually putting it into practice and getting it out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And then leading on from that, another tip is to record yourself. Take your mobile phone, record yourself on your phone. Every mobile phone, every smartphone these days has a kind of a voice memo app or a voice recording app. So think of a topic, your favorite hobby, for example, or the last film you watched, or your plans for next weekend. Speak for 60 seconds or 2 minutes. Listen back to how you've spoken. How can you improve it? How's your pronunciation? Could you have used a better word? Did you get stuck on any grammar? Were you making those hesitating noises too much? If you're not happy, record it again, the same topic. Try and improve it every time. That's obviously more powerful because you're listening back to what you've recorded, and then you can analyze it and you can be critical, and by self-correction make a better recording the following time.
Can I just say, I think these are lovely ideas. I do believe in speaking to yourself. My husband will tell you that I kind of speak to myself as I'm cooking or whatever I'm doing. It's good to get your thoughts out. And I think there's such a difference, as you said, between thinking what you're going to say and actually speaking, because speaking, obviously, you're going to be using the muscles of your mouth. You're going to have to engage your brain with your mouth to get those ideas from there to there. So there's a different process entirely in speaking. And then the recording yourself is such an really powerful way to improve your fluency. I use recordings a lot. In the Fluency Club, once a month, the students have a chance to send me their recordings, and
Oh,
I
you
send
do
them
that? You do
feedback.
that too? I do that.
I do that too.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yes, no, it's fantastic. And often when people start, and I think this is a really important point also, whenever you start recording your voice and you listen to it, you will hate your voice because it doesn't sound like you think it sounds. But if you persevere, if you keep going, it is so effective for improving your fluency. And as you said, listen to yourself speaking and then record it again, and then maybe record it a third time. And what I found in the most recent little program that I did, which was all based on recordings, actually, at first people would say to me, "Oh, I don't like my voice." And I would say, keep going, because at the end of this challenge, you will love your voice. And that's the important thing, to love your voice, because your voice is so powerful. Your voice projects you and your feelings and your opinions. It's a very important part of your personality. And I think once you start getting more confident also with recording yourself speaking English, you're going to become more confident anyway in life. And I think it's a very important tool for developing English and for developing where you want to go in life as well. So it's also a self-development tool, which is a lot to sort of like take in, I think. But I am an absolute fan of recording. I think it works so well on so many
Absolutely.
ways, but you do
Yeah.
have to get past that initial discomfort.
And just to add one thing, Claire, about the not liking your voice thing, if you think about it, it's very logical because when you're speaking and you hear yourself speaking, there's vibration going on inside your skull, inside your head, your ear, all the bones in your head are vibrating the noise. Whereas where you record your voice, that's how other people always hear it. So you're not used to how other people always hear it. For you, your voice is how you hear it inside your head. So it's
Exactly.
everybody says the same thing. I hate my voice. Well, it's because it's different to the way you normally hear it.
But
So you
I
just
can
need to
tell
get
you,
used to it.
exactly. Well, I can tell you that when I receive recordings from my students, their voices are beautiful because everybody's voice is beautiful. So I would say, this is one of the best ways of improving your fluency, because especially if you can do it as a habit and you regularly record yourself, listen back, think about what you could improve, think about how you could make it easier for you to remember the words or the grammar, because the more you do it, the more you will develop your fluency and your confidence. So I love that tip. Thank you so much. It's always worth hearing it, I think, from other teachers as well.
Absolutely. And going back to the feedback on other students' messages, obviously that's something you get when you do pay for a course. You do get the teacher's feedback on your messages. How can you improve it? But you can also do that yourself. You can also be a self critic and listen back and try and improve that way by being critical.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Craig. And just to remind everyone, Craig's talk at the summit is going to be Fluency Through Speaking, 12 Ways to Improve Your Spoken English. Now, we've had, I think, 4 or 5 ways. So make sure that you come to his talk so you can get all 12 ways to improve your spoken English. Craig, thank you so much for sharing these ideas with us today.
My pleasure. And I look forward to seeing everybody at the summit in September. I'll be talking about AI. I'll be talking about other tips that will help you. So I look forward to seeing you all there in September.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to your talk, Craig.
Thanks for having me, Claire. It's been a pleasure.